If you're trying to get your music into TV shows, movies, and commercials, there's a few different ways you can go about doing that. In this hopefully short presentation, I'm going to try to walk you guys through the very basic pros and cons of two pretty common paths that a lot of producers try to take in this business. So one is direct licensing, meaning that you don't send your music to a library or any middleman at all. You just directly create the music, send it out to music supervisors or production companies or directors or anybody that you potentially could have a relationship with, and send your music to them for some sort of a project that they're working on. Okay, so we're gonna talk about the pros and cons of that versus working with what I did for all of my career, is working with libraries. Okay, so I'm trying to be unbiased, even though I need to let you guys know that my entire career was going through libraries. I did not have any, shouldn't say any. I've had maybe one or two direct licensing opportunities in my career, and they worked out really, really great. But for the most part, 99% of my income in my work has all been through libraries. So that is my bias, that is my background, and that is obviously the path that I encourage my students to take. But I am really trying to be unbiased in this presentation, to really be honest that there are some pros to the direct licensing model. So I want to be as transparent as I possibly can on that. All right, let's start with direct licensing. Let's go with the pros. You get a lot more control when you are the one directly licensing your music to your clients, right? Because if somebody has a project, a commercial, a show, a movie, and you don't like what they're working on, you disagree with it for whatever message that product or that show has, you don't have to send them your music. Or if they want to use your music, you have the absolute ability to say, I control my music, so no, you don't get to have it. So this is sometimes an ethical issue for some sync licensing producers. They want to have a lot of control over what projects their music gets placed in. So when you directly license, you get to have that control. It's definitely a pro. You will definitely earn much more money per sync fee. If you're not familiar with sync fees, they are essentially the one-time payment you get when you get a track placed in a TV show, movie, commercial, promo, whatever it is, okay? Because you are not sharing it with a library, you are directly licensing it. Essentially, you are acting as the library, right? The composer and the library. You get to keep 100% of that sync fee. We'll talk about what happens with libraries, but you can definitely count on the fact that you'll be earning a lot more when you get those placements, okay? And you'll certainly be earning more in the back end because you'll actually be controlling your publishing as well. So if you're not familiar, when you get a placement on TV that earns royalties, there are two forms of royalties that get paid out. One is for the writer and another is for the publisher. So if you are the composer, the writer, and you are acting as a publisher, meaning you are doing all the paperwork to license your music, then you get to have both of them. So you basically get all of the income that could come to you. When you work at the library, they usually take the publishing share. You would only be getting the writer's share, okay? So you can certainly count on more back-end income when you work directly with your clients. Now the cons, these are the ones that I really do think are very important and something to seriously consider before you want to go down this path, okay? One, it's a lot more desk work and schmoozing. So you're going to do a lot of work that requires drafting contracts, sending emails, sending over contracts, verifying information, maybe even gathering cue sheets, maybe even having to schmooze people, meaning you have to travel a lot more. You have to go to networking events. You have to go to your clients many times, have meetings in person, if not maybe Zoom meetings a lot. So there's just a lot more work that is involved in the administration and the publishing of the music, not to mention organizing probably a catalog online of some sort that your clients can have access to and download what they need with the metadata, with all the alt mixes and the stems. So it's a lot of organization. It's a lot of, kind of busy work, essentially. It's kind of like a lot of data work, right? So just know that that is obviously built into it when you are doing your own direct licensing. And of course, for schmoozing, for some personalities, they're better at that. For myself, I'm not really into it. I never like the whole having to network and get out there and do that kind of stuff. So this either resonates with you or it doesn't. So just know that that is certainly something you have to do. And with all of that, first con, the second con is that all of that will take you away from creating music. Okay, so this is one of the biggest ones actually with cons of direct licensing. It's the reason why I've never done it. Many people have asked me, Jesse, you've been doing this for so long. Why didn't you just create your own library? Why don't you just do this? Mainly these two top cons right here, because I love creating music. I'm just in love with the craft of this. I'm not in love with paperwork. I'm not in love with calling and schmoozing people. I'm not in love with sales and marketing and all the things that you necessarily have to do if you're going to directly license and market your own music. So it's a really big one to know that this is going to be something that if you love music, licensing your own music directly, a lot of it, what percentage? I don't know. I don't know if I can tell you direct percentages, but I'd say at least 30 to 50% of your time will be in working on getting your music out there and marketing it and selling it to your clients. And that leaves a lot less time for you to create music. So something to think about. Of course, with all of this comes great responsibility. So you will be earning more money through all of this and you had more control, but then there's more responsibility. So if you send music that had been, you didn't clear all the samples, or maybe you sort of got too close to a reference track, well, guess who gets sued if there's a problem with your music, right? So you definitely have more legal liability, you have more responsibility with the clients that you do. So just know that that's there, okay? So there's probably a lot more on the pros, a lot more on the cons, but I'm going to make this really quick and sweet so you guys can see it, just sort of an overview of how this stuff works. Let's move on to music libraries. And of course, this was my path, right? So the pros, the biggest one, it allows you to just focus on making music. So when you work with a library, they take care of the paperwork, they take care of the registrations. You obviously need to double check. They take care of the schmoozing, they take care of the networking, they take care of everything that's not making music. So that frees us up, it frees me up to be able to just create the music that I love to create. So probably the biggest pro for me. It allows me to do that. What you get to do is when you work with a library is you have a team of shoppers working for you basically for free, all right? So the library will earn some income when they get your music placed, but they don't get paid upfront for any of that work. So the way that I see it is I have my music out in, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 libraries at this point in my career. And while I'm sleeping or while I'm working on this video right now, there's a team of people on Earth potentially shopping my music for me. I don't pay them a dime to do it. I don't have to coach them to do that. I don't have to pull their leg to do that. They're internally motivated because they're going to earn some money if they get placements with my music. So the cool thing about working with libraries is you essentially get an army, depending on how many libraries you work with and how big they are, but you certainly will get a few people advocating for your music and getting it out there into these clients' hands. And you don't have to do anything about that. You can certainly just sit there working on music while somebody else does all that shopping for you. So that's great. And of course, with libraries, you're going to get access to opportunities that you probably wouldn't have had access to yourself. And the reason I know that is because all the opportunities I've had from, I've had a Nike commercial, Outback Steakhouse, Ford, Jack in the Box, American Idol, The Voice, Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I mean, there's a long, long, long list of my placements. For me to have to individually go out and meet all of those different clients and get my music, forget about it. Just literally forget about it. That never would have happened if I didn't work with, sorry about that. If I never worked with, music libraries. So music libraries have these relationships in place, and they have multiple music supervisors and ad agencies and reality TV show production companies and you name it, all working with them. So when you partner with a library, you get access to all of them right away, right off the bat. And not only just those opportunities, maybe in this country, in the US, but I've also had placements in other countries and foreign productions all over the place because they have sub-publishers. They have relationships with other libraries in other countries, other territories. So it's like a spider web. It starts creeping out all over the world, and your music has access to all of those opportunities. Not guaranteed, but definitely has opportunities, has access to potentially getting some placements, okay? Definitely some cons. This is where I'm going to be honest, okay? You are going to earn less money per sync fee. When you get a sync fee opportunity with a library, they will usually take 50% of that sync fee. You'll get the other 50%. So right off the bat, you just got to accept that. The highest fee I've ever received doing licensing in my manner has been $7,000. So for some of you, that might be, wow, that's a lot of money. But for some people that have worked directly with clients, they've gotten $50,000, $100,000 working directly with clients. So you're just not going to be able to see probably massive sync fees. I'm not saying they're impossible. They definitely do exist. But on average, it'll be that like 2,000 to 3,000, maybe up to 10,000. That's kind of where you're going to see some of the bigger opportunities working with libraries. So just know that's one of those drawbacks of it. Usually you're not going to see any publishing royalties or income at all. That's how that's how libraries stay in business. It's a 50-50 partnership. You are the composer, the writer, you send your music to the library and they say, hey, for us to keep shopping your music and to stay in business and to keep doing this cool thing that we're doing, we need to keep the publishing royalties so that we can keep our lights on, we can stay profitable, and we can pay our mortgages and help raise our kids and families, right? They have the same concerns that we do. So essentially, you get the writers, they get the publishers, and you split things 50-50. So it's definitely fair. I feel like it's a fair arrangement, but just know that you're not getting those publishing royalties in the long run, okay? And of course, you work with a library, you're going to have little to no control over where your music gets placed, okay? So if you're not aware, when you sign with a library, they usually have to take control of your music. That means, yes, control of your copyrights, control of your masters. They usually sometimes have to take ownership of your music. So that freaks out a lot of composers and producers are like, oh my gosh, no, 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 no. And I understand it. If it's something that is a deal breaker for you, let it be a deal breaker. You don't have to sign with a library. The reason why I had no problem moving forward with this and continuously sending my music to libraries that took ownership of my music is because I didn't have any other plan for how to monetize my music other than working with a library. So if you have a plan for, no, I want to own my music so that I can do X, Y, and Z in the future, great. Don't worry about working with libraries because you don't want to transfer ownership over to them. But if you don't have a plan B, if you don't have something specific that you want to go for, why not give a library a shot? Because at least they can, in exchange for that control, give immediate and unlimited access to their clients for your music for all the, and that's why they need control. So some people think, oh, they're just being greedy. They want to control my music. They probably don't care about it. What they need is a legal guarantee that when I go to their clients and say, hey, look at this catalog of, thousands of tracks we have, all of them are cleared, meaning you can use anything you want, anytime you want. We really just want you to use as much of our music as possible so that we can generate those royalties and get some back-end income. So it makes it easier for their clients to get a lot of music. It makes everybody, yourself and myself and the libraries, more profitable in the long run if they don't have to, individually clear a song every single time some client wants to use it. So right when you sign that contract, when you give them your album on day one, they're going to ask for you to relinquish that control so that they can just tell their clients, use this whatever you want. So if there are many things on TV and commercials that you really don't want your music involved with, well, first at least look into the library you're going to submit to and make sure you're not submitting to a library that does a lot of that type of content. But also just know that, it's a part of the game. And I've definitely had my music in stuff that I didn't personally agree with, maybe even didn't ethically agree with. And it doesn't always rub me the right way, but it is also one of the costs of doing business this way in the industry. So just be aware of that. So let's move on to making your decision. I would say just think about your priorities. And I really do think between those two options, there's really one thing that stands out. And I think this will help you probably decide which way you want to go. With direct licensing, you have to just be willing to take on a lot of non-musical work. Okay, so that paperwork, that schmoozing, that sales, the marketing, building a website, it's a lot of just business work. Okay, so if that sounds exciting to you and that sounds really cool and you're like, man, I'm into that kind of stuff, I could really do that, then consider it. It could be a way you actually want to go and you don't mind taking a little time off of music and really focusing on building a business. But if you want to work on just your music, libraries are probably where you want to go because they have allowed me and they allow all of the producers that I recommend and follow my advice and go this strict route. They wake up every day and their only job is to make music. Of course, serving the needs of the libraries. They don't just make music just for whatever they're feeling. They want to make sure that they're serving whatever's going on with the library's clients. But it is just about making music. And so if that is something that has been your dream to just make music every single day, then consider doing that. That might be the route that might be better for you. But whichever route you go with, just know that it's both hard work. Okay, so that I don't want to mislead anybody in thinking that libraries are easy and direct is really hard. It's both hard work. Libraries is hard work too. You guys all know that. Those of you that have been working in this business for a little while, and I obviously have been harping on this forever. It's not a get-rich-quick thing. It takes a long time. This is definitely a 2 to 5 year sort of a timeline to start seeing some significant royalty income. Okay, you can get paid more sooner than that in terms of your consideration fees and sync fees and that kind of thing. But for the long-term passive income that a lot of you guys are into this for and you really want to build up, this is a long-term game. It takes a few years to get into it. So if you don't know what you're doing, if you're brand new to the business, if you really want to go in this library route, you can certainly go do it yourself. This is kind of what I did essentially 13, 14 years ago. But I've created a lot of amazing resources, which you can discover in the description box of this video, that will help you get there much faster. Avoid the costly mistakes that a lot of producers make, that a lot of composers make, that end up burning them out of this business and losing their ability to actually turn this into full-time income. So we have library recommendations. I can tell you which libraries are probably the most profitable and most legit ones that you should be thinking about partnering with. We have resources on how to make the music that's going to get those placements. And we can get you professional feedback on your music so that you're not just stabbing in the dark and hoping that something sticks, or putting a library out or putting an album out to a library and then finding I'm getting rejected over and over and over again. What's going on? What's happening? You can get clarity with professional feedback from the team that we've put together, including myself. So all those resources are down below. So please, I encourage you to get yourself educated on the side of the business before you dive in too deep. You certainly don't want to be one of those producers. And I've gotten these emails 2 years into the business, emailing me and saying, man, I've been working with this library for 2 years. I've got 100 places, 100 tracks accepted by them, 0 placements, 0 sync fees. I'm not getting anything. Like, what am I doing wrong? And it's probably because they didn't start from day one getting educated about how to navigate this industry. And they just sort of threw their music out there and hoped it was going to work out for them, which is not a very wise move. You don't have to do that. I mean, 10, 14 years ago, yes, that was probably the best you could do. But we've got resources for you now that can certainly shortcut you into that full-time income status sooner than later. I can definitely guarantee you that. So hope you guys join us. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial and this helped to illuminate yourself on which way you want to go.